There are homes built to impress. There are homes built to protect. And then, very rarely, there are homes built to tell a story that the owner never wanted the world to know. Somewhere on a private island off the coast of Florida, behind 6 layers of security, past a gatehouse staffed around the clock, hidden behind walls of living bamboo and reinforced storm glass, stand a building that doesn't appear on any architectural registry. It doesn't show up in the permits filed with Palm Beach County. It wasn't featured in the glossy spreads of architectural magazines that briefly caught a glimpse of the main residence. To the casual observer, it doesn't exist. But it does exist. And the people who know about it, the contractors who built it, the architect who designed it, the small circle of trusted insiders, they've stayed quiet. Until now. Tiger Woods, the most famous golfer who ever lived. A man whose life has been stripped bare by scandal, injury, and personal collapse, and yet somehow rebuilt into something almost mythological. Tiger Woods spent more than $2 million constructing a secret wing inside his $60 million Jupiter Island compound. And when you find out why, when you understand the name whispered in connection with that hidden wing, everything you thought you knew about Tiger Woods, about legacy, about what a man who has been through the absolute fire of public humiliation will do to protect what matters most to him, it will hit you differently. The name is Kai Trump, and this is the story nobody told you. If stories like this one, the real ones, the ones they try to hide, are what brought you here, consider subscribing now. Every week we pull back the curtain on the lies the tabloids only half tell. Jupiter Island, Florida, is not a place you stumble upon. It is a 12-mile barrier island separating the intracoastal waterway from the Atlantic Ocean, and it is home to one of the highest concentrations of wealth per square mile anywhere on Earth. The streets are private. The beaches are private. Even the air seems to belong to someone. Tiger Woods purchased his estate here in 2012, 2 years after the most public unraveling of celebrity marriage in modern history. He paid approximately $54 million for the raw land and existing structure. Over the following years, demolition crews and construction teams, operating under strict NDAs, began building what insiders describe as not just a home, but an ecosystem designed around one person's very specific, very private needs. The compound sprawls across more than 10 acres. There's a putting green that took 3 years to perfect, a replica of Augusta's most brutal holes. There is an underground gym complex with an Olympic-grade training pool. There is a medical rehabilitation wing that, by multiple accounts, rivals the private sports medicine facilities at major universities. After his catastrophic car accident in February 2021, the one that shattered his leg in multiple places, the one that doctors initially feared would end not just his career, but his ability to walk, that medical wing became something else entirely. It became his lifeline. But the wing we're talking about today, the one that cost $2 million and doesn't appear anywhere on record, is different. It wasn't built for Tiger. It was built for someone else. Think about what it means that a man who guards his privacy so fiercely he reportedly has panic buttons installed in every room of his home, chose to create a permanent, fully equipped private space inside his most sacred sanctuary for another person. What would it take to earn that kind of trust from Tiger Woods? What kind of connection would justify that level of commitment? If you've ever watched someone you love build walls around themselves after being hurt, and then slowly, quietly, start to let someone back in, drop a comment below. This story is about more than marble floors and security gates. To understand why Kai Trump's name is attached to this story, you have to understand who Kai Trump is, and more importantly, who she is becoming. Kai Trump is the daughter of Donald Trump Jr. and Vanessa Trump, making her the granddaughter of the 45th and 47th President of the United States. She is 17 years old. She is also, by every credible account, one of the most naturally gifted young female golfers in the country. She began playing seriously as a young child. By her early teens, she was competing at a level that turned heads in the golf community, not because of her last name, but because of her swing. Clean, powerful, mechanically sound in ways that most adults who've played for decades never achieve. She became, in a very short time, exactly the kind of talent that the golf world quietly, carefully starts to talk about in hushed, expectant tones. And then, her path crossed with tigers. The exact nature of their mentorship has been kept deliberately vague by both families. What we know is this: Tiger Woods does not mentor casually. He is not the kind of man who opens his private facilities to just anyone. In over 2 decades of being the most famous athlete in the world, there are almost no documented cases of him bringing a young golfer under his wing in any meaningful, sustained way. His time is protected. His space is sacred. His energy, particularly in these post-accident years when every practice session costs him something, is rationed with almost military precision. So when reports began to surface that Tiger had not only taken a personal interest in Kai's development, but had reportedly invested in making his own estate accommodate her presence on a meaningful, long-term basis, the golf world paused. Because that was unprecedented. The $2 million wing, according to sources familiar with the construction, includes a private suite with its own entrance and exit, a dedicated short game practice area accessible only from that wing, a film room with swing analysis technology that most tour players don't have access to, and what one source described simply as a space that tells a young person, "You belong here. You are serious. This is real." Whether you see that as a beautiful expression of mentorship or whether something about it makes you pause and ask deeper questions, that tension is exactly where this story lives. And we're not going to pretend it doesn't exist. This is the part of the story where people tend to have very strong opinions. Where do you stand? Is this a legendary athlete passing the torch to the next generation? Or does the secrecy surrounding it raise questions that deserve to be asked? Be honest in the comments. This is a safe space for real conversations. To truly understand what Tiger Woods has built on Jupiter Island, you have to understand what he was building away from. Because the greatest mansions in the world are never really about square footage or ocean views. They're about the thing the person who built them is trying to escape. Tiger's public life has been a masterclass in loss. The loss of his father, Earl Woods, the man who shaped him, drove him, sometimes damaged him, and loved him in the complicated way that fathers who pour their entire identity into a child can only love. Earl died in 2006, 1 year before Tiger reached the absolute apex of his dominance. Tiger never truly recovered from that loss in a way the public got to see. He recovered in private, in practice rounds that went 4 hours past sunset, in silence. Then came 2009. The crash, the texts, the names, 14 women. A Thanksgiving night that changed the entire narrative of the most carefully constructed public image in sports history. His wife, Ellen Nordegren, took their children, Sam and Charlie, and left. The divorce cost him somewhere between $100 and $750 million, depending on which financial analyst you believe. But Tiger himself has said, in the rare moments he's addressed it, the money was not the loss that broke him. The loss that broke him was the loss of ordinary mornings. Breakfast with his kids, the drive to school, the bedtime routines, the invisible architecture of daily fatherhood that most people take for granted and that, once removed, leaves a silence in a house that no amount of money can fill. He built the Jupiter Island compound partly as a fortress, partly as a rehabilitation center. But if you look closely, if you study the layout, the sight lines, the way the children's wing is positioned relative to the main residence, the proximity of the putting greens to the bedrooms, so Sam and Charlie could stumble out in the morning and find their father already at work, you begin to see something else. You see a man try to recreate in architecture what life had taken from him in time. And when the 2021 accident happened, when the police report described the scene in those clinical, horrifying terms, when the surgeons described the damage to his right leg as comminuted open fractures, when the word amputation was briefly, terrifyingly on the table, Tiger faced a version of loss he hadn't anticipated. The loss of the body itself. The loss of the instrument that had defined every single day of his life since he was 2 years old. He survived. He rebuilt. He walked back onto a golf course. He competed at the Masters on a leg that doctors said might never support a full swing again. And somewhere in that rebuilding, in that impossible, stubborn, deeply human refusal to accept the story the world had written for him. Something shifted. If you've ever watched someone refuse to quit when every reasonable voice around them said it was time to stop, and felt something in your chest that you couldn't quite name, that's what this moment in Tiger's story asks of us. If this is landing for you, the like button is a small but real way to say, I see this. I'm here for it. Let's be specific, because in stories like this, the details are where the truth lives. The wing in question is understood to be approximately 4,000 square feet, which in the context of a $60 million compound is almost modest. It is not the largest structure on the property. It is not the most technologically sophisticated, but it is, according to people familiar with its design, the most intentional. The entrance is separate from the main house. There is no requirement to pass through Tiger's personal living space to reach it, a detail that speaks directly to the question of privacy and autonomy. Whoever occupies this space can arrive, train, rest, and leave without ever disrupting the rhythms of the main household. It is a guest facility in the technical sense, but the investment in its interior, the swing analysis studio, the short game practice facility, the film room, makes it something closer to a dedicated training campus for a single athlete. For context, when Tiger was developing his own game as a teenager, he did not have access to anything remotely like this. His father drove him in a car with a dented fender to public driving ranges. They maxed out credit cards to fund tournament entry fees. They slept in motels. The gap between what Tiger had and what he was building for the next generation is staggering, and it says something about what he believes legacy means and what it costs. The $2 million figure itself deserves examination. In the world of Jupiter Island construction, where labor costs are elevated by remoteness, privacy requirements drive up project management expenses, and every contractor must sign confidentiality agreements that their attorneys have to review, $2 million is not an extravagance. It is, frankly, what you'd expect to pay for a properly equipped, professionally finished training annex built to the standard that a generational athlete would consider acceptable. What's extraordinary is not the price. What's extraordinary is that it was built at all, that someone earned that someone was deemed, in Tiger's private, guarded, fiercely protected judgment, worth that investment of space and money, and something far more valuable than either, access. And the question that serious golf observers have started asking quietly, in conversations at country clubs, in the commentary boxes before broadcasts, in the green rooms of sports television shows, is whether what Tiger is doing with Kai Trump represents a kind of succession. Not of his records, which may never be broken, but of his philosophy, of his approach to the game, of his belief, inherited from Earl, refined through 30 years of obsessive mastery, that golf is not a sport. It is a discipline, and disciplines require custodians. There is an elephant in every room this story enters, and we are going to address it directly. Kai Trump's grandfather is Donald Trump, the 45th and 47th president, a polarizing, divisive, historically significant political figure around whom consensus, in virtually any direction, is nearly impossible to achieve in modern America. Tiger Woods has spent his entire career navigating the racial politics of a sport that was still excluding black members from certain clubs when he turned professional. He has been, by design and by nature, intensely apolitical in public. He famously refused to endorse candidates. He played golf with Barack Obama and played golf with Donald Trump in the same decade and made neither into a statement. He has said, more than once in different forms, that his job is to play golf, not to be a symbol. But symbols don't get to choose what they symbolize. And the image of Tiger Woods, the greatest golfer in history, the son of a black father and a Thai mother, the man who integrated Augusta National by sheer force of dominance, building a $2 million training wing for the granddaughter of Donald Trump, is not a neutral image. It will be read. It will be interpreted. It will be used by people on both sides to say something that Tiger almost certainly did not intend to say. What Tiger appears to have decided, if the reporting holds, if the wing exists, if the mentorship is what multiple sources suggest it is that golf is bigger than politics. That talent is bigger than last names. That the obligation he feels toward the game that gave him everything is not conditional on the ancestry of the person he's handing it to. You may find that admirable. You may find it naive. You may find it complicated in ways that resist a clean conclusion. That complexity is not a failure of the story. That complexity is the story. The silence around the wing, the NDAs, the absence from permit records, the carefully managed absence of any official confirmation suggests that Tiger himself understands all of this. He is not making a statement. He is avoiding the requirement to make one. He is doing what he has always done, taking the thing that matters to him, putting it behind a gate, and refusing to let the outside world's noise determine its value. Here is what we know about Tiger Woods, stripped of all mythology. He's a man who grew up with almost nothing and built almost everything, who lost almost everything and rebuilt enough to compete again at a level that should have been physically impossible, who has 2 children he loves with a ferocity that has never once translated cleanly to public view, because he refuses to let love become content. He built a $60 million compound not to be seen, but to be safe, to rehabilitate, to parent, to practice, to have mornings that belong only to him. And somewhere inside that compound, past the putting greens that replicate the hardest holes in golf, past the medical wing that kept him mobile when his leg should have ended him, past the children's quarters that are positioned so Sam and Charlie can find their father at dawn, there's a 4,000 square foot wing that the world was never supposed to know about, built for a 17-year-old girl who swings a golf club the way Tiger once did. Like it was never a choice, like it was always going to be this, like the game itself was waiting for her to show up. Whether you see this as mentorship or as mystery, as legacy, or as something that deserves harder questions, the fact that Tiger Woods decided this young woman was worth that level of investment, that level of trust, that level of architectural permanence, that is not a small thing. In a life full of impermanence, marriages ending, careers interrupted, bodies failing, reputations fracturing and reassembling in the public eye, Tiger Woods built something permanent. He poured concrete. He hung doors. He wired a film room and seeded a practice green and created a space that says, in the only language Tiger has ever spoken fluently, this is where serious work happens. You are serious. Come back tomorrow. That might be the most Tiger Woods sentence ever uttered. And it wasn't uttered at all. It was built. The $60 million mansion has a secret. The secret cost $2 million. And the secret's name is Kai Trump. Now you know.